You didn't feel it when it happened. No one does. Spiritual castration isn't like a physical wound, sharp and violent. It happens slowly, silently. A pleasure given up here, a choice ignored there, a desire suffocated. One day you wake up, open your eyes, and realize something is missing. But it's been so long that you no longer remember what it was. It's as if they extinguished a fire you never even knew you had. You keep breathing, walking, talking, but inside, something essential has been stripped away. The most perverse part is that this mutilation leaves no visible scar. In fact, it's wrapped in promises of happiness, comfort, entertainment, easy pleasure. They told you it was freedom, but what they offered was distraction. You trade depth for dopamine, purpose for addiction, presence for escape. And when you realize none of it fills the void, it's already too late. Your inner strength was sold off for crumbs of relief. Your vital energy, the kind that drives bold decisions and transforms lives, has been diluted until only apathy and dependency remain. Don't think this happened by chance. There's a silent engineering behind this numbness. Men who think, feel, and fight are dangerous. Men who burn from within with clarity and purpose cannot be controlled. So they created a generation that fears silence, avoids pain, and worships comfort. Masculinity became a joke, creative impulse turned into guilt, and sex, once sacred, became an addiction. What Nietzsche called the free spirit has been domesticated like a pet. And the worst part? Many call this evolution. But there is a way out, not for everyone, only for those willing to face the brutal discomfort of truth. Are you willing to lose everything that keeps you weak? To kill off versions of yourself you've protected for years? To walk without applause, without shortcuts, without anesthesia? Because real freedom demands sacrifice. And true transformation begins the moment you stop pretending everything is fine and choose to break your own chains. The question is, will you keep smiling inside the cage, or will you burn it down with the fire that still flickers, however faint, within you? Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to focus, to persist, or simply to be at peace in silence? It's because you've been addicted. They turned your mind into a dopamine circuit that craves constant, quick rewards. A short video, a notification, an empty orgasm. Pleasure, once meant to be the expression of something greater, has been reduced to a tool of control. While you think you're choosing, you're merely reacting. With every click, every stimulus, your willpower bends a little more. This is modern castration, smiling as you hand over your mind to easy pleasure. They didn't need iron chains. They used screens. They used pornography, social media, sexual freedom without consciousness. They gave you an endless menu of stimuli, and you chose the most seductive prison, the one where you feel good all the time. And someone who feels pleasure all the time never feels power. Because real power requires sacrifice, the ability to contain the fire, to master the inner beast. But that doesn't serve those who profit from your weakness. The more stimulated you are, the more obedient. The more distracted, the less awakened. And a distracted man never threatens the system. Pleasure has shifted from a transcendental experience to existential anesthesia. And each time you give in, something inside you dies slowly. Your discipline dissolves, your clarity fades, your presence disappears. That raw, wild, creative energy that could have built an empire is traded for seconds of pleasure, followed by hours of emptiness. And when you wake up, you're weaker than before, and you need another hit, and another, and another, until pleasure is no longer pleasure but need. And what becomes too necessary enslaves. But the body feels, it sends signals. So does the spirit, that discomfort you keep trying to silence, that constant dissatisfaction, that feeling that something is off. That's not a flaw, it's the call to awaken, to break the cycle. Because as long as pleasure is your master, you will remain just another smiling servant of the system. But there is a way back, painful, yes, but glorious. And it begins the moment you stop seeking more stimulation and start seeking more truth. The result of all this is a new kind of man, the tamed man. He looks free, looks strong, looks successful. But inside he's empty, fragmented, disconnected from himself. He smiles to please, says what others want to hear, consumes what he's told to consume. He lives in constant pursuit of validation, from women, from society, from numbers on a screen. His sense of worth doesn't come from his essence, but from the reactions of others. And this subtle dependence is what keeps him obedient. A man who needs to be accepted will never be a threat to the system. This new man is afraid of himself, afraid of his anger, his power, his silence. He was taught that all of it is toxic, primitive, wrong, so he represses. He represses so much that his energy turns into anxiety, depression, and uncontrollable impulses. He's become a domesticated caricature, disconnected from his roots, his pain, and his power. He runs from discomfort, avoids conflict, numbs himself with empty pleasures. He has lost the instinct to fight for something greater than himself. And without that flame, he survives, but doesn't live. The worst part is that he believes he's evolving. After all, he's kind, flexible, adaptable. He doesn't hurt anyone, but he also protects nothing. He doesn't lead, he doesn't confront, he doesn't build. He's harmless, and that was sold to him as a virtue. The truth is, he's been castrated not only spiritually, but emotionally. Every time he silences his urge to act, to speak, to take a stand, he cuts off another piece of his own soul. And a man's soul doesn't die all at once. It dies through omission. It dies in the absence of purpose, but deep down there is still noise, a restlessness, a spark, a distant echo of the man he could have been. And that spark, if not smothered, can set everything on fire, including the lie he called identity. Because the true man is not the one who pleases everyone. He is the one who, even when rejected, remains whole. Even in silence, stands firm. Even when wounded, walks with purpose. And to find that lost man again, you'll have to face the truth. You've been avoiding for years. Can you remember exactly when you got lost? When you started drifting away from who you truly were? Sometimes there's no marked date, no specific event. It's more like a silent erosion, day by day, decision after decision. One time you swallowed what you wanted to say to avoid confrontation. Another time, you ignored that intuition because it felt irrational. Later, you gave up on a dream because it was unrealistic. And then, without realizing it, you got used. To giving up on yourself in small doses, like paying a price in gentle installments until your soul runs dry. The truth is, no one destroys us all at once. The world simply sets the conditions. But we're the ones who sign the contract. Every time we trade truth for acceptance, essence for performance, silence for distraction, we give away pieces of who we are, and that builds up like dust on the soul, until one day you wake up and realize you're no longer the man you promised to become. There is a quiet rupture between what you show the world and what you feel when you're alone. And that pain, that feeling of betraying something internal, sacred, is not weakness. It's a sign of life. Because the man truly dead inside no longer feels anything. He moves on autopilot, numbed, insensitive even to his own emptiness. But if you still feel discomfort, real, deep discomfort, it's because there's still something left to save. There's still a fire burning, even if it's just a fading ember. This is your chance. Perhaps your last. You can keep burying it, pushing it aside, pretending it's just a phase. Or you can do something most people don't have the courage to do. Stop, look at yourself with brutal honesty, and admit where you fell. Because only the one who acknowledges his fall can rise again with truth. And only the one who faces the moment he abandoned himself can choose the path back, even if that path is made of pain, sacrifice, and silence. Since ancient times, great thinkers have understood what few dare to acknowledge today. Nietzsche, Jung, and other masters of inner wisdom spoke of this invisible prison, this spiritual castration that corrodes the modern man from within. They knew that the real battle isn't against external enemies, but against inner weakness, the abandonment of spirit and the erasure of will. While the world celebrates distraction and easy pleasure, these philosophers warned us of the hidden cost behind the illusion. Nietzsche, for instance, saw the modern man as a fragmented being, torn between the will to power and the temptation of decay. He warned that lust and purposeless pleasure do not liberate, they enslave. That the free spirit masters desire rather than being mastered by it. And that only through discipline and self-mastery can man reconnect with his vital strength and true purpose. This message, though powerful, has been buried by a culture of immediacy and superficiality. Jung, on the other hand, dove into the shadows of the psyche and revealed that the repression of impulses and disconnection from the unconscious creates an existential void. This disconnect is a kind of slow death of the soul, one that can only be healed when we confront our inner demons and allow that repressed energy to transform into creativity, strength, and transformation. They already knew that true power lies within, but it does not surrender itself to just anyone. It is a fire that must be nurtured, not extinguished. These thinkers offer us a rare key, an ancient secret. Spiritual castration is real and painful, but not final. It is an invitation to rebel against comfort, a call to awaken the inner warrior who has been silenced. And while most settle for crumbs of pleasure, only a few accept the challenge to rise from their own ashes. The question is, are you ready to be one of them? Your sexual energy is one of the most powerful forces you possess, a primal flame that can either create or destroy. However, that same energy, when misdirected, can become the invisible chain that keeps you trapped. The problem is not desire itself, but how you consume it. When lust becomes addiction, when pleasure is pursued without awareness, you hand over your power to a silent enemy. It's as if you're trading the spark of life for a fire that burns fast and dies quickly, leaving only ashes of frustration and emptiness. The transmutation of this energy doesn't mean repression or foolish denial, it means conscious transformation. Great leaders, philosophers, and warriors knew that controlling sexual impulse is not about deprivation, but about redirecting that force toward creation, inner growth, and the pursuit of your highest goals. It's an internal alchemy where the energy once scattered on fleeting pleasures becomes fuel for discipline, mental clarity, and life purpose. When you allow desire to dominate your mind, you lose control over your actions, becoming a slave to the immediate and the superficial. But when you master desire, when you channel that energy toward what truly matters, you unlock authentic power. The kind of power that fuels resilience, focus, and the courage to face hardship. That transformation is what separates ordinary men from those who leave a legacy, from those who conquer not just the outer world, but also the mastery of themselves. Understanding this dynamic is the first step toward breaking the invisible chains that bind you. It's not about denying your nature, but awakening to the immense potential sexual energy holds when used as a tool of power, not a source of weakness. The journey is hard, it requires courage and discipline, but the reward is true freedom, the kind that's born from self-mastery and deep connection with your own spirit. You feel that emptiness, don't you? That unsettling sensation that whispers even when everything seems to be in place. On the outside, you might appear fine, smiling, fulfilling your responsibilities, seeming in control. But deep down, there's a silent void that nothing can fill. Most people live exactly like this, trapped between what they show to the world and what they feel when they're alone. It's a kind of emptiness that can't be solved with distractions, fleeting pleasures, or other people's approval. It's a soul-deep void, a silent scream for something beyond the superficial. This feeling isn't a sign of weakness or a flaw. On the contrary, it's a genuine signal that something is out of place, that your essence is being suffocated. Many try to silence this inner voice by piling on responsibilities, adding more distractions, trying to fill the void with external things. But the truth is, this wound only begins to heal when you stop running and start facing what's really going on inside you. The pain, the fear, the deep dissatisfaction. And it's exactly that recognition that begins to open the path to transformation. Accepting that this emptiness exists is the first step to breaking the cycle of spiritual castration. You're not alone in this silent struggle. Thousands of people feel this disconnection, but few have the courage to admit to themselves that they're trapped in an invisible prison. Feeling this pain is a sign that change is not only possible, it's urgent. Allowing yourself to feel and validate this emptiness is a form of resistance. It's an act of self-love that defies the system trying to keep you numb. Because only when you acknowledge this inner fracture can you begin to seek something deeper, truer, more powerful. And that search is the path to rediscovering your lost fire. And finally, your freedom. You believe you are free, that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. But this is the cruelest of illusions. True freedom is not the absence of limits, but the ability to choose what truly matters and resist the temptations that lead you away from your purpose. When you surrender to immediate pleasure without awareness, you are imprisoning yourself. Even more, this false freedom is a golden cage where the price of distraction is the loss of your own inner strength. Society sells the idea that being free means following your impulses, satisfying your desires, and avoiding any discomfort. But freedom without discipline is merely an invitation to self-sabotage. You may think you're in control, but in truth, you're being led by your addictions, fears, and suppressed impulses. Those who seem freer are often the most trapped, slaves to immediacy and escape. And that only deepens the emptiness you already know so well. Acknowledging that true freedom requires sacrifice is a fundamental step to breaking this cycle. Real freedom is born from mastery over yourself, the ability to say no when everything inside you screams yes. It's a rebellion against easy comfort, an act of courage few are willing to take. It is within this discipline that you find the power to build a legacy, to become someone who not only survives, but lives, with purpose and authenticity. And the more you understand this, the more you realize that the path to freedom is lonely and challenging, but it is also the only path that leads to true inner peace and lasting power. The choice is before you. Remain trapped by illusion, or embrace discipline as your new form of rebellion. And that choice defines everything. Despite all the darkness surrounding you, there is a flame still burning within you, an ancient and powerful force that was never extinguished, only suffocated. It is your inner warrior, the fire that carries your essence, your courage, and your deepest truth. This flame is what silently resists spiritual castration, what refuses to accept mediocrity and conformity. It is the force that can pull you out of darkness and guide you back to the path of authenticity and true power. Reconnecting with this warrior is not easy. It requires courage to face your own shadow, to embrace the pain you've tried to avoid for so long. It requires discipline to abandon empty pleasures and distractions that keep you trapped. But above all, it demands will, an unshakable will to be free, to be whole, to be the master of your own destiny. This transformation begins the moment you decide you will no longer be a victim, but a creator of your own reality. When the inner warrior awakens, he does not seek others' approval nor fears judgment. He walks firmly, even if alone. He knows true power is not in dominating others, but in mastering oneself. It is a quiet, steady power that gives you clarity, purpose, and strength to face any adversity. This awakening is the promise of a new life, a life where you are free to build your legacy and live with authenticity. The journey may be lonely and hard, but it is the only one worth taking. Because in the end, what matters is not what the world thinks of you, but what you think of yourself when you stand face to face with your own soul. It is this truth that will set you free, if you have the courage to follow it. Now the decision is in your hands. You can keep smiling inside the invisible cage you've built over the years, pretending everything is fine, that this comfortable prison is freedom. You can continue feeding the fleeting pleasures that spiritually castrate you, letting the fire within you slowly die out until it turns to ashes. But know this, every moment you choose complacency, you bury a little more of your true self, your vital strength, and your unlimited potential. Or you can choose differently. You can decide to break the chains that bind you, even if that means facing pain, loneliness, and the discomfort of awakening. Because true freedom is not a gift, it's an achievement. It is for those who dare to look inward with brutal honesty, who confront their demons and rise despite everything. It is for those who know the price of power is high, but the emptiness of submission is even higher. Are you ready to become the master of your mind, your body and your destiny? Are you willing to abandon excuses, escapes, and addictions that keep you small? Are you willing to burn down the cell with the fire that still burns inside you, even if faint, to be reborn stronger, clearer, and freer than ever before? If your answer is yes, then this is your moment. The path won't be easy, but it will be true and transformative. So stop deceiving yourself. Stop hiding. The moment to break the chains is now. The choice is yours. Will you remain trapped in illusion, or will you finally break free and reclaim the power that is rightfully yours? The journey begins the moment you decide, prisoner or warrior. What will be your next step? Thank you for watching until the end and for being willing to face this difficult truth. If this video awakened something inside you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep receiving content that will challenge your mind and strengthen your spirit. Join this journey of self-mastery and transformation. Your best version is waiting to be revealed.